to the Krewe de Kannabis Chronicles. I am the president of the Krewe de Kannabis, Crystal Sillins.
And I'm the vice president of Krewe de Kannabis, Melissa Nicholson.
We hope that you enjoyed our first debut premiere episode of the Krewe de Kannabis Chronicles. And we're looking forward to bringing you a wealth of information and fun and education and just showing you some of the adventures that we have along the way. Some of the things we've accomplished in the past 3.5 years since our inception in 4/20, April 2020, and what we do to build a community of not just advocates for the mission that we have, but welcoming a lifestyle of people who want to feel included and safe using a therapeutic plant that most of us call medicine.
Give a judgment-free education, like a whole community, a whole vibrant vibe, one love, everyone's welcome, and we all just bond over our love for a plant.
Yep, we are 21 and up crew, but most of us have families and we do family-friendly events, but a lot of our events are 21 and up adult content, so we are putting information out there for people to feel included in an environment that is not so taboo to talk about anymore. I think our country has really made a lot of strides and progress in the last decade with legalization, but there's still so much more work to do. Being in Florida, I feel like we're a little bit behind the power curve, especially being a tourism state. But I think it's like 20 recreational states. I should have looked this up. That specific fact before recording this, but it does. It is always constantly evolving and changing. It's I think about 33 or 35 medical states and 20 recreational states. So Florida is not a recreational state yet, but we are very involved in influencing change for that to happen. So some of the things that we really thrive on is, are we all just unproductive stoners and potheads? No. We really thrive on productivity, and we like to teach education and really be advocates for responsible use of cannabis plant, because there's a lot of forms of cannabis that's going to get you high. You're going to feel elevated, I like to say, and some people may not feel comfortable with that feeling. So, talking to people about this, especially maybe some older people who have just misconceptions about it from, the 60s and 70s growing up with it being just a hippie plant or, something associated with a gateway drug into, horrible drug abuse and, situations like that. We want to show people that it's a wonderful thing that you can thrive in any kind of environment with us when you're around like-minded, amazing people who are business-focused, who are family-focused and family-oriented. And we just want to do great things. And this is a plant that has saved our lives. So.
And we get people all the time that say, oh, I could never, because it makes me go to sleep. And then that's where we come in and say, well, there are ways to use use it as medicine, because even if it's recreational, it's still medicinal.
Oh, yeah.
So there are ways to tailor to that, and that's where we come in and we teach people the different methods and the different, ways to start, because you cannot just start like a seasoned user,
Typically in high school, a lot of us maybe have experimented and you just kind of get high right away. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan either. A couple times I tried it, I was like, oh gosh, no way. And then I went into the military and it wasn't really part of my circle and my lifestyle. But I didn't really understand why it was so illegal. I mean, I thought that it was one of the hardest drugs out there because of what DARE taught me growing up. And I thought it was just such a horrible, yucky thing that was going to make me, become basically a non-productive member of society. So I stayed away from it because of what I thought was the truth, until I learned, it's not just like that. And, with responsible recreational use, people don't even want to admit that they are using it therapeutically. They are using it medicinally, because if anybody's like, I just need to smoke a joint after work to calm my nerves, that's a medical need. And that's better than taking any kind of pills out there.
Yep, that's true, because I personally use it for anxiety. I use it for panic disorders. I use it for, and and it's not because I need something to calm me down. It's because I'm using it in place of a pharmaceutical that would have done the same thing. Things that are really dangerous.
Yeah.
And we are just talking about a plant, not a product.
So let's talk about the origination of 420. So the Krewe de Kannabis was established April 2020, 420, and we really had to rush to make that happen because it was never going to happen again. April 2020 was never, ever, ever happening again. Right. So we were like, it is now or never. Let's do this thing. So when this happened, I did a bunch of research and homework to make sure I understood what the origination of 420 was. And, you know, a lot of people think it's a cop code. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the cops are going to call their buddy or, you know, their backup if, you know, they're pulling somebody over for a marijuana bust. A lot of people, I thought that growing up. I thought 420 was just, you know, something that I was just never really part of. But there's a lot more backstory to it. There was a group of kids that they were coined and named the Waldos after hanging out after school. And they wanted to link up and get together at 420 every day. That was the time that extracurricular activities were typically getting over. They were people watching, you know, and kind of making up stories about different people and what their lifestyles were like while they're hitting some joints. And, you know, before they even got a hold of marijuana, they got tipped off from some Coast Guard fellow people of the community that were growing some illegal bud, and told them that they had to get rid of it, and it was put somewhere out there, and they had to go on an adventure to find this Coast Guard marijuana bud that was being illegal. You know, this just dates back to kids that were trying to experiment with, back then, of course, an illegal recreational drug that people didn't know a whole lot about because it was outlawed and made illegal back in 1937 due to prohibition, and a lot of propaganda.
Yeah, and then we're talking, it originated in 1971, so
yeah,
that's a big
50
gap.
years later,
Yeah.
40, sorry, I'm not a math person. But yeah, so, you know, 40 something years later, and it became, I think the children of that era and our parents, you know, they were kind of boycotting and, you know, being a little bit, not outlawish, but the hippie, you know, era kind of was formed, and rock stars started, you know, really singing about it, and the reggae, you know, cultures came to light because people realized it wasn't hurting and killing anybody. It was making people feel good and happy and relaxed.
Uplifted.
Yeah, elevated. Yes, right. Uplifted and elevated.
Well, and that's where the story goes from them smoking under the bleachers, wondering what they're doing at these football games, you know, in California in 1971. And then goes to one of those 5 people, one of the Waldos, goes and becomes a roadie for the bass player of the Grateful Dead. So then it starts spreading through the band, and then it spreads through what they call deadheads. I personally am not one. That's what they're called. So then they start passing around flyers to smoke at 420 on 420, and then it went into the hands of a news reporter for High Times, and then that's how it became mainstream. Yeah,
and High Times is still around today.
Yeah. So it went from 1971 to I think 1980 is when they were passing around the flyers, and then about 10 years maybe later, I want to say 8, I'm not sure, someone else, but 87 maybe, somewhere, anyway.
Late 80s.
The High Times magazine announced it as the Waldos originated in 420. So.
Yeah,
it's not a cop code.
It is definitely not a cop code. We definitely attribute the holiday of 420, because now not everybody, but anybody that is pro-cannabis or in the industry will celebrate.
They have a holiday twice a day. 4:20 a.m.
Yeah.
4:20 p.m.
Yeah.
And then it's an extra special one on 4:20.
Absolutely. And, you know, everything's a holiday these days. If you go to the National Day calendar and look it up, there's probably 5 different things that today is. I should have looked it up and seen what it was.
We celebrate a whole other style, and I think that's a good time to talk about our ball.
Yes. Okay, so 4/20, 2024, next year, we are throwing and celebrating our 4-year anniversary party in the form of a semi-formal luau, where we're going to roast a full pig, and it's going to have sponsors and doctors and members of our community and anybody who's an advocate or anybody that's pro 420 friendly who wants to come celebrate 420 the way it's intended to be celebrated in a safe, welcoming, inclusive environment. We invite you out to the Court of the Luna. It's going to be probably 6-ish in the evening till 11 at night because of noise ordinance. The only thing we can really get in trouble for out there is the noise ordinance. So you gotta calm it down by 11 o'clock. But we got VIP tables that are going to be available for sale very soon, and early bird tickets are about to drop soon too. Next month.
Definitely going to be a good time. And this year we're really going to boost up the education part of it, so you're going to leave there knowing something else about cannabis.
Yeah, the goal is to have quite a bit of information in the form of posters or banners, supplied all over the Court of DeLuna. It's going to be green and flowery and beautiful, and think Hawaiian flowers of any kind. So we're really looking forward to bringing that vision of a Maui Wowie.
Definitely save the date, because we already have people saving the date.
Yep.
Somebody moved their wedding.
Yep, people are changing plans because of it, and if we don't get the word out there now, we don't want you to miss out, and it will be maybe one of the last big crazy balls that we do for a little while, because balls are a lot of hard work, and the 420 ball, we were hoping to have at least 500 people there. So of course a small short goal is 420 people, but I think the biggest ball or event that DeLuna's ever had there was over 600 people. And if we get like 700, 710, go with the DAB holiday alignment, we can.
If you know us in real life, we do pretty good.
Yeah. So mark your calendar, save the date. It is a Saturday. It's going to be our 4-year anniversary, and we've accomplished a lot in the last 4 years. This was a crew that just started, with a group of friends wanting to get together and bring other like-minded individuals from our community in to discuss cannabis. So we called that Cannabis Conversations.
Yes.
And this is what we're doing here. This podcast is brought to you to be another form of a virtual online cannabis conversation where we want to invite our crew members and our community and people who are so passionate about this, like we are, to the table to talk about. And it's okay. And there's some taboos still out there, and we want to debunk some of the myths. There is a form of non-psychoactive cannabis out there where people can use for medicinal value and not get high. And people simply just don't know that.
I think sometimes when I really think about how cannabis has helped me, I think I attribute a lot to that.
Oh, me too. Me too. I was terrified of the plant. I was so terrified.
It reset my whole body and just made me feel better and be able to live pain-free for the most part. Get rid of prescription medications, and I've been prescription-free since 2020.
Yeah.
And so,
congrats.
But I attribute that to the non-psychoactive
cannabinoid
the most. I mean, yes, THC helps in the moment, but the others, there's so many different ways to use one plant.
We have an endocannabinoid system. It is one of the major body function systems, just like our respiratory system, our cardiovascular system. It is a system that is kind of built into and interwoven into our nervous system, and the science out there has proven time and time again, and it's actually featured on National Institute of Health.gov website. So it's so confusing why they still want to keep this illegal. But there's information out there proving the science behind it. So this isn't just, anecdotal. This isn't just people talking about it. And this cannabis has been used for, thousands upon thousands of years, probably dating back 10 to 12,000 years.
And really all you have to do these days is get on Google and Google whatever you're feeling, your symptom, and cannabis, or whatever your diagnosis is in cannabis, and look, and there will be studies showing how it's helped, and you don't even have to make the decision to use it, but just educating yourself and knowing that there's another option. Yeah,
and not to be so afraid. And we're not healthcare professionals. Of course, Melissa did work in healthcare previously, but we are not here to make any medicinal claims or medical claims. We're not here to say it's going to cure, treat, or prevent anything. Any kind of diseases. We would always encourage you to consult with a healthcare professional and your doctors before switching anything up, just like we did. I mean, we definitely consulted with healthcare professionals when we were weaning off of those synthetic prescription medications. You can't do it alone, and sometimes you do get hooked and don't even realize it. And that was what happened to me initially. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to you too. And you fall into this hole of what in the world is happening to me.
Your body is sick without,
and it is very hard to come off of.
Yeah, and your body is sick without this synthetic substance in it. and that's not how our bodies work. When you bring cannabis in and you have the endocannabinoid system, your body is already made for this plant, you know, and there's natural cannabinoids, you know, they're found in breast milk, and there's, just like Chris was saying, there's so much research out there. And it's kind of like a you know, black hole until you start diving into it and you see all of the ways that it can help, you know, and maybe it can't help you, but just in having that information, it might help someone that you care about.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
We all know that. You know, when I started researching it and kind of got a little frustrated and annoyed with what I thought I knew my whole life. And that's one thing about, you know, always keeping an open mind to different ways that the world changes. But one thing that's remained consistent in all the history books and in the science is that cannabis is a medicinal phytocannabinoid, phyto meaning plant. It is probably, it's just as safe as the vegetables that we eat. I think that it should be part of our diet. And years ago, before it was outlawed in the 1930s, it was. Industrial hemp was grown everywhere because it was used for textiles, it was used for building, it was used for farming, it was used for everything, and it cleaned the soil. It literally is a cleaning enhancement for agricultural use. So, you know, the farmers are loving that there's freedom now amongst hemp in our country, and it's coming back to life. And so the hemp and the CBD used to be involved into all of the meats and the chickens and the eggs because they were all eating it out of the ground. And, you know, it's just so crazy how the evolvement of it, how it happened. And, you know, we are a society that really relies upon modern medicine and healthcare. And of course, we're not saying don't go to your doctors. We go to your doctors, but make sure you're being educated on the power of something that they told you was maybe not so good for you, because there's a lot of different reasons why they've told you this. And, you know, between the pharmaceutical industry, which we've learned and are learning, you know, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and so is cancer, so is chemo. Of course, weed has become a multi-billion-dollar industry too, as legalization has happened, and it's a way for people to maintain some of their health problems a little bit better, in our opinion.
It's used for so much, even outside of healthcare, like you were saying, but building textiles.
And it's anti-fire, like it's fire resistant. So why are we not building more with it?
Yeah, and so that's another thing that we work on too, is like homegrown. You know, we want people to have access to a plant, and we're fighting for that.
Every once in a while, I find a seed in my medical marijuana, and I'm like, I should save this for when we finally can get there, because there are a lot of grassroots effort really trying to push the Florida legislation in the right direction for home grow with the recreational movement as well.
It is scary out there, even for cannabis. If you're buying on the street, it's, you know, there are things being put into it sometimes that's not safe. And then there's the argument that even the medical stuff has, you know, things sprayed on it, and so there's a lot of regulation that is still continues to evolve and everything. But hopefully we will have access to our own grown medicine and use for, you know, our own, like, grow it at our own house, and we don't have to worry about all that stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about finding it.
And the dispensaries are expensive, so that's another reason. I mean, growing marijuana or hemp is not exactly, you know, affordable at first either, but, you know, depending on where the legislative, you know, decisions take us, if you can have 4, some states allow 4 plants, some allow 6, some don't have a limit, some have, you know, 4 per person in the household. It just kind of depends. So, you know, with growing, if you get some really great seed and you start, you know, growing these beautiful bushes, you could have, you know, your medicine for the rest of the year, a whole nother year ahead of you, and, you know, share with your friends, depending if that's going to be legal or not, because it might not be. So we're not saying you should share, because right now it is illegal to share any of your medical marijuana in the state.
Yeah, and I'm super excited for the next episode too. So if you are super nerdy and love learning about the cannabis plant and all the things that it does and all the different parts and components to it, definitely tune in to next episode.
Yeah, and you're really good at all that nerdy stuff, and I love it, because I mean that's what proved to me that this stuff was real deal stuff.
Well, and I wasn't gonna put anything in my body that was gonna hurt it because of my recovery, and so that's when I really started learning about it, was how it helped replace some of the things that my body was dependent on. So I'm really particular about what I put into my body. So yeah, that's why I am so educated on it, because I love that whole part of it, and
Yeah.
how it helps in so many different aspects.
So make sure you're going to tune in. For those of you who've been continuing to follow the journey for the last 3.5 years of the Krewe de Kannabis in person and in our community, we thank you so much for being part of that journey. We really are excited to bring this podcast to life finally and have a virtual online platform where we can reach beyond just our community and hopefully, host maybe some other cannabis conversation events in other cities that, they may not have something like this, and it gives people an opportunity to make like-minded friends and to be part of the mission and be part of the forward movement and change and influencing those lawmakers when we go to Tallahassee. And, the inclusivity, the social gathering, and all the things that we, are about in this mission and life and crew goes well beyond just the people that we have as members. It's community, it's sponsorship, it's a lot of other people that support us. So we want to thank you for supporting us. If you're interested in being a part of a open but private Facebook group community of the buds, or it's the friends, but it's called Buds of KDK online, and the link is in the comments. Please go ahead and answer the questions to get into that group, and we'll approve you, and you'll be the first to know about all of our events and when those early bird tickets drop for our 420 ball next year. The education piece that we're going to do on the next episode is going to be really powerful. So if you are interested in how it all works and all of that great stuff, we encourage you to tune in and share with a friend. We are going to be streaming on all major platforms in the coming months, but we are just getting started here, and we look forward to having more people with us and coming along. And I did, in a little tiny break that we had, I want to correct myself on the states. It's actually 23 recreational states that is now legal, and then for adult use, and then 38 medical states. So it's definitely coming a lot further along, and we got more work to do, and we can't do it alone. It takes a lot of strength in numbers. So even if you're not going to be riding on the float or walking with us in parades or coming to our cannabis conversations, we appreciate you at least tuning in, sharing this information. When the petitions come out there, we're going to tell you which ones to sign. We're going to encourage you to get out there and talk to other people. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you think so far. Let us know what you would love to see in future episodes. This is a community-based podcast that is not going to just be, a newscast, and we want to make sure that people are just, having fun with this too, and we're bringing you what you want to see.
Yeah, and also we want you to be a part of our community, because that's, we're building a community here locally, and a strong female cannabis community as well. But we also have our crew community, and all of it sort of just, everyone starts to know everyone, and it's just a beautiful thing. And so we want you to be a part of that, and we want you to take that and then outside of this locally, and build your own cannabis communities, and then it just gets bigger and bigger, and that's how we reach people and educate them. And
I do love seeing more and more women in the cannabis space, because it is more of a male-dominated field. And in the magazines and the High Times and all that stuff out there, there are highlights of women coming up and rising up as being canna moms and natural focused plant mamas, and it is beautiful seeing moms and women just rising up and speaking up for a plant that is so truly valuable to our society. So thank you again for tuning in and joining us with the Krewe de Kannabis Chronicles. And we look forward to catching you next time. Again, I'm Crystal Sillins, the president of the Krewe de Kannabis.
And I'm Melissa Nicholson, the vice president.
Catch you later, homies. Bye.